It's inconceivable to me that there'd be 67 votes to remove the president from office. A number of Democratic senators are running for president. I'm sure they're going to be excited to be here in their chairs, not being able to say anything during the pendency of this trial. So hopefully we'll work our way through it and finish it in not too lengthy a process.
There is Senator Mitch McConnell on a possible Senate trial for the impeachment of President Trump. We're joined now by one of those Democratic senators also running for president. He was talking about right there. Amy Klobuchar joined us from Minnesota this morning. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, George.
So if
that sounded like a little bit of a threat there, you know. I'm sure they want to sit in their chairs and be quiet. Anyway,
so does that make you think that the Republicans will move towards this idea of a long trial for political reasons?
I don't know. The latest word is they wanted a shorter one. I think what's really important to the nation is that we hear the evidence and that it's a fair trial. I will say, when you were talking earlier with the panel, I am just struck by the fact that you go back to the basics, which is the founding fathers, James Madison in that constitutional convention, who said that the impeachment article should be included, the provisions in the Constitution, because he feared that an American president could betray the trust of the American people to a foreign power. That's what this really is about, and that's what you heard in the moving testimony of these career diplomats, these career military people who've served under Republican and Democratic presidents who are making it very clear that they thought this was fundamentally wrong.
That was the witness testimony this week. So have you seen enough evidence, even though you're eventually going to have to be a juror if it goes to trial, whether to acquit or convict, have you seen enough evidence to date for this to go to trial?
Yes, I made this very clear that I think this is an impeachable offense. And all of the senators, including our Republican colleagues, are going to have to make this decision. And I thought one of the really good points that was made earlier on your panel was the point that you can't just close your eyes to this. You think about back in Watergate, they didn't close their eyes when a paranoid president who was up for election and looking for dirt on a political opponent got involved in having people break into an office and steal information on their opponents from a filing cabinet. Well, this is the global version of Watergate, where a president is trying to get dirt on a political opponent from a world leader. That is basically what happened here. And so that's the case that we'll be making. One
of the big questions going forward is what witnesses you will hear from. Your Republican colleague on the Senate Judiciary Committee, the chairman, Lindsey Graham, has made it a point he wants to hear from the whistleblower. Let's listen.
I will not allow a trial in the Senate to go forward with my vote unless the whistleblower comes forward. Even though they're offering hearsay, they're the ones that started this. And I want to know, is there a connection between the whistleblower, the CIA, Biden, or any other Democrat that would make cast suspicions over their motives? I want to get to the bottom of this.
Do you think the whistleblower should be heard? And what other witnesses do you want to hear from in the Senate?
No, I don't think you should force a whistleblower, and I think Republican Senator Grassley of Iowa has been very clear on this. Whistleblowers are, the provision is in the law to allow them to come forward with information in many different ways across the government, and you do not want to mess with that. And it's been pointed out the whistleblower had limited secondhand information, and now, right in front of the nation, people have testified under oath who had firsthand information about the fact that the president made this call and very specifically tied it with dirt on a political opponent. So I think that would be a serious, serious mistake. And as for other witnesses, that will be determined after we see what is brought over from the House. I think the bigger issue, as I was listening to the panel, is the American people see this right now. They're listening to it. I'm sure they're going to be talking about it at Thanksgiving. But they want a check on this president. They want an economic check. People are dealing with pharmaceutical prices that are out of control and college prices. But they also want a patriotism check and a value check. You look at those voters in Kentucky and Virginia. They said enough is enough. They switched the House and Senate, State House, Senate in Virginia, and they elected a new governor in Kentucky. And as Democrats, as we go into this presidential race, George, we better not screw this up.
But do you
because
think
we right now have with us a fired-up base, but also independents and moderate Republicans.
Is there any danger, though, that going forward that this could end up helping Trump? There is some evidence, some national polling shows that support for impeachment has ticked down a little bit. I mean, there's conflicting evidence among national polls that the president's Republican base is hardening, might even be getting some independence on the question of impeachment going forward. Are you concerned you go forward, there's impeachment, there's a Senate trial, he's acquitted, and it ends up helping the president?
No, because you had those elections taking place in the shadow of these impeachment proceedings to begin with. Secondly, we have a constitutional duty. That's why those young, new House members came forward with their military backgrounds and said, enough is enough. We simply cannot have a president using his position to advance his interests. And the third reason, this is part of a pattern. Put the impeachment aside for a second. This is a president who is constantly, George, putting his political interests, his partisan interests, his private interests in front of the country's. This is the guy that went down to Mar-a-Lago after he signed his tax bill and said to his friends, I just made you a lot richer. There is a much bigger argument, and the American people understand this.
You're also a candidate in Iowa right now, as we talked about. You had a couple strong debate performances in a row. We just heard Nate Silver say there's an opening for a candidate like you. But I remember what Dave Nagel, the former congressman from Iowa, dean of Iowa politics, says about the Iowa caucuses. Rule number 1, organize. Rule number 2, organize. Rule number 3, get hot late. If you're sitting as a juror in a Senate trial for 6 days a week, is it going to be possible for you to do what you need to do in Iowa?
Yes. And again, I have a constitutional duty that has to come first. But for me, we are moving up in Iowa. We are doubling our number of offices. We are adding staff, the same in New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, because people are starting to get to know me. And they're starting to understand what I've said from the beginning. I am not running for chair of the Democratic National Committee. I'm running for president of the United States. I'm someone that always look people in the eye. I'm blunt. I tell them the truth. I think that's what we need right now, and we need someone who has, yes, bold ideas. And I think one of the things we've learned in these debates is there's no monopoly on bold ideas. There's not. And my argument from the beginning that we don't want to kick 149 million Americans off of their health care in their current insurance in 4 years, that most people agree with me, and that we don't want to give free college to rich kids, most people agree with me in our party. That being said, I think we can bring premiums way down. We can take on pharmaceutical prices, and that's the case that I'm making, and that's why we are moving up right now.
I know there's at least one other person in the United States who agrees with you, and he's entering the presidential race, it looks like, today. That's Michael Bloomberg. And in fact, in the ad we're going to show, he talks about not kicking people out, not taking away people's health insurance as well. What do you make of this candidacy already? We've learned that he spent at least $38 million in the first week, probably a lot more than that.
We welcome everyone to the race. People keep coming and going, and I keep steadily going up. I don't have that money. That is true. I am the granddaughter of an iron ore miner who worked 1,500 feet underground his whole life, the daughter of a union teacher and a newspaperman. But I have actually gotten things done in the gridlock of Washington, D.C., and here's my difference with the mayor. I have won major rural districts, major suburban districts, time and time again, and brought people with me. I think that's going to matter to our voters, and that's the case I will make. I also go out there. I had 4 town hall meetings in New Hampshire in the last 2 days. I just don't think people are going to buy it, that you just put a bunch of money, and maybe the argument is, hey, I've got more money than the guy in the White House. I don't think they're going to buy that. I think they want someone different. As I said on the debate stage, they're not necessarily looking for the loudest voice in the room. They've got that in the White House. They're not necessarily looking for the richest person. They got a guy who's constantly talking about how much money he has. They're looking for someone different.
Senator Klobuchar, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you. Great to be on, George.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.